Years and years ago, I was asked to be a mentor for some youth through my church. The boys were seventh graders at the time. We met twice a month for about an hour each time. The first 30 minutes, we played football, basketball, or any other sports or activities. And then the last 30 minutes, we talked about life, any struggles they were going through, or any other relevant topics that pertain to their particular age. Now, what made these times so unique and rewarding is that we continue to do this throughout their junior high and high school careers. It was so cool to see them grow and develop into men and even leaders in their school. I'll never forget one session in particular. I think it was in their junior year, at the beginning of their junior year. We were talking about accountability. Now, after I got done, one of the young men raised his hand and he said, "You know what? I need to share something with you guys. I struggle with cussing, and I want to do a better job of using more appropriate language." Now, I was taken a little bit off guard by this. Now, I know that teenagers struggle with cussing, but this particular young man, he had never cussed in front of me at all. I was proud of him for sharing. But to be honest, I was also a little concerned. You know how teenagers can be. It can be considered cool to cuss. And I was really afraid that some of the other young men in the group would make fun of him for coming out and sharing. But you see, when he got done, I wasn't prepared for what happened next. There was about 30 seconds of complete silence. And then another young man raised his hand and said, "You know what? I struggle with cussing as well. Let's hold each other accountable." And then another man raised his hand and said the same thing. By the end of the session, almost everybody in the room had admitted to struggling with cussing and wanted to do a better job with the language that they used. I was blown away. And that first young man that had the courage to share, he taught me a valuable lesson. In fact, this lesson is probably one of the top 10 lessons I've learned in my 20 years of being in leadership. And the lesson is vulnerability is contagious. Can I confess something to you? I'm insecure. Now, don't get me wrong. There are many areas I feel competent and confident in, but there are still days where my insecurities get the best of me. Maybe you can relate as well. Can I share something else with you? You are probably more insecure than you let on to. In fact, most of the people we interact with, they also are wrestling with insecurities on a regular basis. But we don't see it because we all are trying to put on these brave faces and not show anyone. These insecurities, they stem from a deep-rooted need and desire to feel accepted and liked by other people. It's like we never fully outgrow high school and we all want to be a part of the cool kids table. Now, the hope is that as we grow, mature, and develop, that this need or desire to be liked begins to decrease just a little bit. But no matter how old we get, we still have a deep-rooted desire for acceptance. On a side note, if you meet someone who says, "I don't care at all about what other people think of me," they're probably lying to you, themselves, and they probably don't have a lot of friends. This desire to feel accepted is perfectly normal and healthy, especially when it comes to the people we love and trust. We should care about what they think of us. Now, I'm not talking about trying to gain identity or significance from other people. I'm also not talking about being a people pleaser. But if our goal is to influence others, to help them become the best versions of themselves that they can be, then at some level, they should respect us and like us, right? But here's the problem with this desire for acceptance. It can hinder us from being authentic or real with other people. It's like we all have this internal voice inside of us. And this voice says things like, "If people only knew the real me," the me that has fears and struggles and flaws and weaknesses and a ton of mistakes. If they knew that me, then they wouldn't accept me. They would judge me. We don't open up and share about our weaknesses because we're so concerned about what other people think, and we think they're actually going to think less of us when we do. But when one person decides not to listen to that lying internal voice, and they take the courage and they step up and they share about those fears and those struggles and those mistakes and flaws. You know what happens to the rest of the room? Everyone else in the room, they take a deep breath and they begin to let their guard down. You see, authenticity is powerful. That's what happened in the story that I shared with you. That one young man had the courage to share about his struggle of cussing, and the rest of the other young men, they felt comfortable to be able to open up. That's what Carey Nieuwhof meant in his quote, "People admire your strengths, but they identify with your weaknesses because we all have them and we all want to share about them, but we're scared we're going to be judged." Now, I'm not advocating we air out our dirty laundry for anyone who will listen. And I'm also not talking about taking a victim mentality where we share about all the things that have happened to us that are bad and we blame other people. In fact, when we share out of vulnerability, it's not about us at all. It's about other people. It's about encouraging them. It's about creating a safe atmosphere and environment where they feel comfortable to open up to themselves and then other people. It's about using your weaknesses to share powerful lessons with other people. That's the power of authenticity. If you want to have effective influence, then be quick to be vulnerable about your flaws, your fears, your struggles, and the mistakes that you have made. All right, here's today's game plan. A few sessions ago, we talked about weaknesses, and I encourage you to create a list of your top 3 weaknesses. I want you to revisit that. And then at some point this week, in a conversation, when appropriate, I want you to share and open up about one of those weak areas. Watch how the other person reacts. Do they begin to let their guard down? Do they begin to share and open up about maybe a weak area in their life? Let me leave you with our treatable lesson. Vulnerability is contagious.